call this meeting for, excuse me, May 13th for the Southwest Tech Board. First thing called to order, second, any public comments? Seeing none? Okay, consent agenda. First, the minutes from the RGB full board meeting Monday, April 8th. Motion to accept.
Motion. Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any comments, questions on the minutes? Adjustments, changes? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Leon. Okay, payroll warrants, 1039, 1041.
Second.
Second. Questions on the payroll? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Vendor warrants, 1040 and 1042.
So moved. Second.
Any questions on the payroll, any account, any problems? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Okay, the cash flow, revenue is in your inbox if you have any questions. Now, we need a motion according to one BSA 313A1AP, contracts and labor relations. Go into a search, update on the superintendent search.
So moved. Seconded.
Second.
And,
Okay,
Ken, I would ask if need be, to invite Margaret Honsinger and Rebecca Tattersall and myself into executive session.
okay, I was gonna invite them, but thank you. Okay, we're gonna invite Meg, Becky, and Mike. All in favor?
Aye.
We have a motion to offer the contract to Meg.
Seconded.
First and the second. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Meg.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Next item is the policy committee. So, me,
Unfortunately, Ken, the policy committee did not meet. We would not have met quorum, considering who was available on the 9th. So we are going to work with Sammy to find time and day that is accessible for all policy committee members. I believe there are only 5 of us, counting myself, 4 actually, myself, Dane, Leon, and Chuck. I don't know that we have a 5th voting member. Or if we do, I perhaps am ignorant to that fact, and perhaps we could accept or incorporate another board member. So that way, if we're missing 1 or 2 members, we can perhaps still meet quorum. That being said, I am hoping to have a policy committee meet. That way we can elect a new chair and get down to business as usual. Our agenda was rather chock full. So I was hoping to have a decent report for the public and for the board today. That being said, that has not happened. I'm hoping that sometime later in May, we will be able to do that. Thank you.
thank you for the update. Okay, action item. The first one is a nomination.
That was the superintendent director.
Oh, what? Okay.
Double. I think we're supposed to update the committee. The first one was an update from the committee that we found our superintendent, so we did that quickly. So
Okay, Perkins Grant CLNA presentation.
Okay, so give me a second here. Meg and I are going to tag team this presentation. I'm going to share it up on the screen. There should be hard copies there at the table for everybody as well. You can look along that way. And for Chuck and Leon and Tim, I'm going to share my screen here in just 1 second. If I could just get a thumbs up or something that you guys can see this okay? Yes? No?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. It's hard on different screens to see. So So as part of our federal Perkins application, we are required to conduct what's called a comprehensive local needs assessment, or a CLNA. Last year was just an update. This year is a complete redo. It's a holistic look at all of our programs, the offerings that they have, the embedded credits, the tier 2 credentials that you're going to hear about, whether programs meet quality standards, what the local market information is, et cetera. It's a lot of information that we have to pull together for our Perkins application. And also, as part of the application, we are required to present it to the school board and have it voted on, that you've seen this and I guess concur with what we've come up with. So here's what it is. There's 6 components that we're going to talk about today. Student performance and accountability, alignment of CTE programs to LMI, labor market information, like I said, size, scope, and quality of each program, progress towards implementing programs of study, analysis and strategies for recruitment and retentions of staff, and progress towards implementation of equal access to high quality programming for all students. So the next slide, I think this is going to be Meg.
Okay, so the next few slides, you're gonna look at a ton of data. But I just wanna sort of highlight the important pieces to it. So on slide 4, that Mike has up here, you'll notice a bunch of different columns. This information really comes from the state on our Perkins accountability data that we use to sort of sift through and take a look at where our strengths are, where potentially we need some improvement. So the columns are kind of spelled out right there. Anything in yellow means that we did not meet our target data point that we agreed to with the state. Okay, so we do have some areas that we need some improvement in. The first column is basically the 4-year graduation rate. It's, are our students graduating high school within 4 years? That information is gathered from all of our sending schools. You'll notice no yellow in there, which is a good thing, but what I would like to highlight is that in fiscal year 21, our 4-year graduation rate was 95. Fiscal year 23, it was bumped up to 99. So that's a good thing to have that number keep going up. What's important about this data is this is last year's data too. I should highlight that. Academic proficiencies in English language arts. Again, we have some areas that are highlighted where we need some improvement in. That information is gathered from the ACT Work Keys assessment that we complete with our students every year. There is a curriculum that comes with that program that we'll dive into deeper this summer to really see how we can infuse more into each program to get those programs like building trades, business management, and forestry, get those numbers up a bit more so that they're meeting those target rates that the state has outlined for us. For math, again, proficiency in math, that again that information is from the ACT Work Keys and the applied math assessment that our students take. It was similar data to what we experienced a couple of years ago, which is why we had written into the Perkins grant last time to have the math interventionist hired. She'll continue her work, especially in those programs that are yellow, and just do some more work with our students. What I do want to highlight in the math area is in fiscal year 21, we did not meet the target rate, but in fiscal year 23 as a center, we did meet it. So there has been improvement. Also, some other areas to note is culinary arts for fiscal year 21. their proficiency in math was a 40%, but in fiscal year 23, it was a 47%. So again, it's inching up, which is good. For manufacturing technologies, fiscal year 21 was 57%, but fiscal year 23 was 64%. What's good about looking at the data is, it shows areas that, not only where we need to improve, but some strengths too. The next column is the academic proficiencies, which really in science, which really comes from the Vermont State Science Assessment exam that we don't administer. The students take that exam at their sending schools. So we're just sort of provided the data as to how our students did in that area. Post-program placement, that covers CTE concentrators who were able to be contacted, who are enrolled in post-secondary education, advanced training, military, or employed after leaving Southwest Tech. Our numbers are pretty good in that area. Fiscal year 21, we were at 89%, but fiscal year 23, we're up to 97%. And part of that is that we have done a better job tracking our students once they have graduated. So our data, I think, is better, which helps with that, that information. Non-traditional program concentration, that covers students that are enrolled in a field that is non-traditional for their gender. That is definitely an area where we need to improve in. You'll notice for hospitality, forestry, heavy equipment, law enforcement, manufacturing and welding, and medical professions are areas that we really need to do some more targeted recruitment in those areas to try and get that percentage up. The next column is the attained Tier 2 IRCs. So the Tier 2 IRCs are things like CDL, game of logging, test out, Microsoft certification, the Vermont State Inspection Certification and ASE certifications that Auto Technology does. The CertSafe and Culinary, I mean, there's a bunch of them for each program, but those are just sort of examples of some of the Tier 2 IRCs that we offer. I have to read my notes here. So one of the highlights is in fiscal year 21, our attainment rate was only it was about 8%. For fiscal year 23, it's 35%. So it went up 5 times, which is great. There are some programs that need some attention in that area. Some of the programs didn't offer a Tier 2 IRC, so that's something to keep in mind, which is why it may have said 0%. The next column for the college credits, that is students who have left school with college credits, earning college credits during their high school experience. Center-wide in fiscal year 21, we were at 17%. But in fiscal year 23, that went up to 30.5%. So as we offer more college credits and more Tier 2 IRCs, we expect the numbers in both of those columns to increase. The last column, I know you can't see it up there, but you have it in your packet, is work-based learning participation. That center-wide fiscal year, we were at 25%. Fiscal year 21, we were at 25%. And that information was based on fiscal year 20. So remember what happened in 2020 was COVID, which then decreased the amount of students that we had out on work-based learning. We bounced back to 25% in fiscal year 21. Fiscal year 23, we're up to 38%. So slowly that keeps climbing, which is good. We do have some programs that, that are highlighted in that column that, need to do some more collaboration with the work-based learning coordinator to get our students out. Any questions about that slide?
The math intervention individual.
Yep.
Do they meet like as a class or they meet individually or how does that work?
So she pushes into the programs. A lot of times she'll push into a program and help the teacher do we call early work. So maybe she might push into building trades and the early work is a math problem. So she'll assist the teacher, the program teacher, in teaching the math around that. She will also at times pull kids individually. It depends on the student and what the student needs.
Cause that like math, a lot of that must be basic math.
There's a lot of
Addition,
fractions,
percentage, decimals,
calculations.
no algebra, geometry and stuff. Probably. So really, that's all a problem with the grammar school, not the high school so much.
Well, I mean, but there is a lot of geometry and building trades, right? There's a lot of algebra in many of our programs, so,
Fractions.
and fractions, right,
It's
right,
math.
exactly,
Building is all about math.
yeah.
Math related to Phil.
Yeah.
Math related to Phil.
Yep.
I have a question. For the certifications, the
Yep.
tier 2, is it a goal of ours to sort of have, you mentioned that some of the programs don't offer them right now. Is it a goal for us to sort of prioritize some of these programs to get certifications for all of them, or?
So this was based on last year's information. Currently, this school year, all of our programs offer at least one tier 2 IRC, which is the National Career Readiness Certificate, which students can earn through their scores on the ACT work keys. But also as a state, they have determined that programs need to offer tier 2 IRCs and or college credits or a mixture of both. So, and that is what's currently happening.
Regarding the goals, on non-traditional program concentration, I'm glad to see that this is part of it, because it pertains to a comment I made during a previous school board meeting related to just that. What are there any goals as of right now to work on increasing the numbers, especially for medical professions, forestry, manufacturing? Are there goals or plans that are in place or going to be in place that have been identified?
So one of the ideas that we've identified is looking back at students non-traditional students that have enrolled in our pre-tech foundation courses that have done well, but they have not necessarily enrolled in the program. And maybe recruiting them, basically, because they've already shown an interest, they've completed the course successfully. So sort of that targeted recruitment, that's one idea that we have so far.
And you've seen from those pre-tech programs that we're getting a wide diversity of students.
I would say more diversity in those than our programs, yeah.
That's true, thank you.
I also just wanted to point out, you want to keep in mind that it's a snapshot of that year. Because there are previous years where I can tell you, for example, med professions probably had, because in med professions, they're counting males as non-traditional in a med professions program. And there have been years where probably at least a third, if not more, of the class were made up of males. So you have to keep in mind that it's a snapshot of a year and not a running average to see. So depending on the year, you may see differences in some of those percentages with non-traditional.
That being said, I would be curious, I'd love this information to see, a sort of average that exists or can exist at some, but that would be really nice.
So for example, building trades back in fiscal year 21, building trades had a 6% non-traditional program concentration rate, whereas fiscal year 23, he was up to 11%. So the number fluctuates depending on the snapshot of the year that they're taking.
Thank you, Sal.
Yep.
Any questions?
So next slide. Okay, so as Mike had mentioned in the beginning, we need to take a look at labor market needs and show that there's a connection between there being a labor market need and the programs that we offer, okay? So some of the information in this table is gonna be repetitive, because we do take a look at tier 2 IRCs and college credits, which shows us, are we preparing students in order to go out into the labor market and be successful? Giving them the skills and knowledge that they need in order to be successful in their field. So that's column 1. The next column, of course, goes over those ACT work key scores and whether or not a program met the target percentage. The next column talks about the percentage of students that are employed or enrolled in post-secondary in their related field. So that is something that we take a look at. And the next column talks about if that program allows the student to live above the Vermont livable wage. That information we gathered through the Vermont Department of Labor website. And then the next 2 columns talk about high wage. If it's determined that a student, once they complete that program, can go out and eventually earn a job at a high wage rate. Again, that information was gathered from Department of Labor. And if that, the next column is if that field is identified as a growth field. And some of that information was gathered from the McClure Foundation, Vermont's Most Promising Jobs, the 2024 edition. You'll notice in the high wage column that not all of the programs got an X, a couple of them got Zs. That includes culinary arts, human services, and TV and video production. And that's really based on because some of the careers in that area may not meet that high, to start off, may not meet that high wage income. Questions on that?
Regarding pre-law, having no data for students enrolled, sorry if you mentioned it, I just zoned out. How come there's no data for?
I'm not sure about that one. It may have been because it's based on the students that we were able to contact. So it may be because we did not connect with the students that finished that program. So.
Thank you.
The livable, the wage data.
Yeah.
That's statewide, that's not specific to our programs or our graduates. So that's, all right, that's not our data, that's statewide data, okay.
Yeah. Anything else on that slide? Okay. So this next slide is the size, scope, and quality. And again, you'll notice some duplicate information around tier 2 IRCs, college credits. But we do take a look at the number of students enrolled in each program, You'll notice that again, snapshot of last year, business management, and pre-law were under that 10 mark. The rest of the programs were, you know, they meet that minimum number of students, which is good. And then we have to show that we've aligned, all of our programs curriculums with the Vermont AOE proficiencies, which every program has done that. They align with industry needs. They offer at least one or more tier 2 IRCs within their programs. They offer college credit. You know, not every program has to offer college credit. And those are indicated by the NAs that they, according to the state, do not have to, they are not required to offer college credit. Every program at Southwest Tech does offer work-based learning. We have some programs that don't participate in CTSOs, but most you'll see from the X's, the majority of the programs do. So the quality of each program, really there are X's across the board when it comes to program advisory committee meetings, you know, having the minimum of 5 members, as well as the committee meets at, you know, our committees meet actually at least twice a year. And they, with the program teacher, review curriculum, they go over the equipment and technology that they use to make sure that it's up to the industry standards. They look at student performance and outcomes, and the advisory committees are a huge resource for our center, but our program teachers too. So under equipment and technology and software, I kind of skipped over that because I wanted to go back to that. All of our programs, really, teachers have identified that their equipment, technology, and software meet the current and future needs of the industry, with the exception of manufacturing and welding. What we plan to do in the Perkins grant is to ask for an upgrade of welding equipment. It's definitely, more and more students are interested in welding, and we really need to upgrade the equipment and probably the space that, that he's using as well. Any questions?
We still have, the older, welding equipment downstairs, or did we get rid of that stuff?
No, we do still have welding equipment. I'm not sure if it's the same equipment that you're.
Oh, the MIG welders and TIG welders and stuff like that.
We do still have.
Fran, we have those, and some of them parted out and sort of use the parts to make some of those work. But they are around. They're just not all together. Yeah.
The headcon or something, so
Okay,
instead of buying a whole new machine or something.
okay.
Anyway, that's all I got.
Regarding the class size, or snapshot, is there any regularity that you're finding with classes being under size that it ought to be under? Is 10 the number that it should be across the board, or is it
So
fluctuate?
10 was the minimum number that the board, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, is the board determined?
Correct. We have a policy about, I can't remember the policy off the top of my head, the number of it, but it talks about a minimum maximum size class policy, and that's the number of 10 that's in there.
Which I will myself later for not remembering that. Share the policy committee. Is there any regularity regarding being under size, or does that also fluctuate? Like 1 year it could be human services and auto, 1 year it could be, is there any regularity to see?
It does tend to ebb and flow. I mean, you know, it's not typical to have a number of years in a row where a program is under. Sometimes they have a little dip in their enrollment, but then it comes back up the next year. So there isn't really a pattern to it, I guess.
was wondering, just looking at where it says, offers college credit.
Yeah.
Like auto technology and, manufacturing. Does someone ever go over to Hudson Valley?
Yes, we do have any students go to Hudson Valley from here.
There's no way you can earn a little bit of credit if, to transfer it over, and of course, they have, I think, majors in those. Aren't we, starting something with electric cars next year, if I remember?
So the grant, right?
So, there's a whole electric car curriculum that's incorporating into his program. The offers college credit, and they can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe right now that's referring to dual enrollment,
Yes.
not
Oh.
articulation agreements. We do have other number of programs that have existing articulation agreements with colleges when the students leave here. But that particular column is referring to while they're sitting in their class here, the dual enrollment option of earning a college credit at a particular institution while they're taking the curriculum here by our instructors. So that's two different things, but there are articulation agreements out there as well.
I should have clarified that.
Thank you.
Okay. So the program of study analysis, a lot of this referred back to the previous slide. But it's taking a look at whether or not the, program proficiencies are aligned with AOE technical program proficiencies. Student assessment, we've talked about transition to post-secondary education, whether the, instruction is engaging, whether there's equity and access for all students, whether facilities, equipment, technologies, and materials are up to industry standards. How is our business and community partnerships doing, and work-based learning? So I apologize, there's another grid that you have to look at. So you'll notice on this grid, we have a lot that's been met, which is indicated by the green. The yellow is in progress, and that really has to do with the work piece and some of the work that we need to do in that area around ELA and math proficiencies for students. So those programs either didn't meet the proficiencies in ELA or math or both. So that column is yellow for that. Everything else had been met. We did decide to put under, in that grid, under facilities, technology, equipment. We wanted to highlight again that the manufacturing and welding and the need for the upgrading of welding equipment. And it's red because it's not started, because hopefully it'll be covered in red. The next slide is, as part of the CLA, we do have to complete surveys of faculty and staff, as well as surveys for our current Southwest Tech students, and surveys of students that are not enrolled in Southwest Tech. So the next few slides kind of cover that. On this page, it identifies the completed professional development that our faculty and staff have engaged in this school year, which includes the Better Lessons, Google Classroom and Google Docs, hazard and safety, internet and web safety, and our teachers also twice a year, they go to their statewide cluster meetings, where they meet with other teachers from their programs throughout the state, and have day-long meetings where they'll talk about curriculum, assessment, and things like that. So the surveys are currently still open. They are open until May 15th. So the data is, routinely being updated into those surveys. Next. Okay. This covers the faculty and staff recruitment, retention, and professional development. I love number one because, 100% of the people that responded, said they enjoy working at Southwest Tech. And, it's a lot of positive feedback from the faculty and staff. They feel that we have a positive student culture, that our outcomes are strong for students, and that, that Southwest Tech provides them opportunities to stay current in their industry and technical field. We're only giving you snapshots of the surveys because if we went through every single one of them, you'd see.
What was the participation rate on that?
So out of 36, we have 36 people, right?
Okay.
We had 24 responses.
Right.
But that was at the time that the slides were pulled into the PowerPoint. It may be higher now. Under student satisfaction, this is based on current Southwest Tech students. They definitely feel that they would recommend Southwest Tech to other students based on their experience. They feel safe riding in our vehicles and vans. They feel like they're a member of the Southwest Tech community. And that they feel that their teachers challenge them to work to their potential. Slide 13. This is from students that are not attending Southwest Tech. You will notice that when we pulled it into the PowerPoint, it only had 14 responses. I do have the live responses up on my computer, so it'll be, what we talk about will be a little bit different than what you have up there. We did wind up getting 68 responses in total for the non-Southwest Tech attending students. So in question 1, where it says, when I graduate from high school, my plan is to, the pie chart doesn't look that much different. What I do want to highlight is, in the pie chart up there, it says 35.7% said, I don't know yet, which I feel is a pocket of students that we could, we could target to recruit. In the live responses, it's at 32.4%. So it's pretty similar to what you would see up there. The question 2A, so the initial question was, did you ever consider attending a program at Southwest Tech? So up there you have 2A, which is, if yes, why did you not enroll? That pie chart, just look at it. It is similar. So the top one is, so 32.4% said my schedule did not permit me to do so. So again, we have a group of students that, wanted to come to Southwest Tech, but scheduling reasons got in the way. So there's some work that needs to be done with sending schools around. How do we get students here? What can we do around scheduling to make it, make access more equitable for everyone?
The 28, sorry. 6% said that teachers discouraged them from joining a program at Southwest Tech. That's not a big number.
It is a big number. Now, it is different on here, on the live results. So the live results had, well, now I can't. That's fine, that's actually down to, is it a teacher or counselor told me it wouldn't be a decision, that
Yes.
one?
Yeah.
So that one in the live results is now 5.4%. Based on the 68 responses now.
Is that only at 7? It's on this thing.
Yeah, so it's
No,
not-
it's 60. Okay, got it. Yeah, okay. Yep, yep, yep.
Right,
All right, thank
so
you.
that shifted.
Yeah, it's pretty small.
Yeah.
But it's bigger. Okay, got it.
Right. But this data is good to have because then it tells us, okay, well, where are the issues, you know, that are getting in the way of students enrolling over here at Southwest Tech?
Right, and if the number was really high initially, does that mean something? That I work in the service industry, so people who are disappointed with your service are pretty darn vocal, my experience. Initially, does that change? That's a big change.
Yeah.
Is it just, you think the factor of like how many participants? Yeah, I get like a bigger pool, n equals 68 is better than 7.
Right.
Yeah, of that 7, it's probably 2 or 3 people that said that.
I'm just saying, oh, yeah, you're right, yeah, okay, that's fair, thank you. Like, just foolish, doing the math. No, okay. Okay.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, okay, yeah, it's just, yeah, all right, thank you.
I think,
Thank you, Mac.
I think just the other thing, if you look at a couple of the other reasons, my parents didn't support it. I thought the CT course would not look good on my transcript. I think we're still fighting some of those typical stereotypes of what CTE is all about. And if you go back to vocational education and, you know, the perception of it, I think we've done a great job of trying to educate the people in the community, but I think in some respects, those hesitations are still that stereotype. I want to go to college, so it's not going to look good. Well, yes, it can look good. It can actually look better for you, but trying to educate them. And I think some of those, you know, when you're talking only 7 students, that perception of those few, and you can see as the number grows, there are less responses that relate to that view of CTE or the old traditional views of vocational ed. So it shows we're breaking through, but some of that is still there that we're fighting.
Right, that actually is kind of part of my point, I guess, that I hope that those stereotypes are being addressed. I assume that in meeting as professionals.
Right.
You're addressing that stuff.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Is there gonna be like a final, when the survey closes, and you can sort of like send us with the updated pie chart?
Sure. Yep.
That'd be. All right, so let's keep it. What's this? What's that?
Yeah, also, I have worked in the service industry for years. You still have the mentality of a lot of parents, it's not just a few, it's a lot of parents. Well, you don't want your kids working on cars, you don't want them changing tires, you don't want any of this. Well, somebody's gotta fix their Volvo or their BMW, their Audi, they think they're just the damn smart. Oh yeah, the kids are gonna go to college. But once you see what the colleges are teaching them today, I'd be scared to death to send a kid to college with all the protesting and crap that's going on, but you can make a lot of money. You do know that a lot of the dealers around here, you know, it's $175 an hour
Right.
to work on your car. Hell, it's $100 to detail an hour or something,
Right.
so there is money to be made. I've made a lot of money over the years. I didn't go to college. And I made a hell of a lot more money than some of these people that did go to college, so, and I throw that in their face every time I can. Because you can do it, but you gotta work at it. And you gotta be good at what you do,
Yep.
so, anyway, I just throw that out there, because you
Yep.
still have that mentality, you don't want their kids astronomical charge of it, even plumbing or electrician. It'd be nice to learn how to work on your own home, put windows in, do some siding, do
Right.
some electrical.
Right.
I know how much it costs to get a plumber or electrician onto your house.
Right.
It's crazy, so, and it's only gonna go higher, out
Yeah.
of control. Anyway, that's my 2 cents, thank you.
Okay.
So number 2 there, that's scary. A counselor told me not a good idea.
We're the same.
Yeah.
This is back when there was only 7 responses.
Yeah,
It's,
yes, that's what John was talking about.
But
Right.
that's,
Now it's only 5.
Okay. So back to current students of Southwest Tech, you know, they feel that their teachers treat them with respect, that the teachers challenge them to work to their full potential. What's important is question 35, which is how did you learn about Southwest Tech, or your program? And you'll see from the chart that 43.5% learned through, you know, their 9th grade tours. So it's important that we continue to have tours and have younger students come through our buildings and do shadow days in our programs to expose them to career and tech ed so that they see what Southwest Tech is all about. You know, in my program are the tools, equipment, you know, are they keeping me with what I need to learn how to use in the employment or college? And they feel that they're up, you know, they're up to industry standards and they're not falling behind whatsoever.
Are we going to grade the bad here, I think? So for question 4, 35, 26, 31, there, I assume we will eventually have all of the data from all of the questions available? Because I don't want to feel
Yeah.
like it's being cherry picked
Yeah,
too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mike Taggart.
I was gonna say, it's my turn.
Okay.
Thank you, Meg, for presenting that information. I know it's a lot to look through for folks, but I think it's really important work to be done, and it gives us a real insight into what students are thinking, what families might be thinking, what prospective students are thinking, et cetera. So as much of a challenge it is to peel through all of this, it really is important and it's insightful, I think. So for our areas of focus for FY25, which would be this coming school year, what we plan to do as a result of the CLNA is continue to work with our academic curriculum integration, continue to work on career exploration, middle school outreach, program of studies, which you delved deep into today with Tier 2 IRCs and college credits and work-based learning, depending on what program you are in. Continuing on working to support special population students, program upgrades, which we've identified as manufacturing/welding throughout our presentation and through the information that we received, and then anticipated future staffing needs beyond this next school year, which could be additional academic instructors or curriculum support and additional paraeducators. Our Perkins grant is actually due next Friday. And so what you're seeing here is just a snapshot of the work that we, stop my screen here, that we have to do. There's a whole grant application that's done online that portions of Rebecca will do and Meg and myself will do. I don't even venture how many hundreds of pages it is actually, but it's a lot of work to get Perkins money where it didn't used to be. For those who've been on the board for a long time, Perkins used to just sort of come and go, and now we're entitled to it. It's an entitlement grant, but we have to apply and be approved for it. And so we likely, historically, do not have our Perkins approval until well after school starts. It's been as deep as December before we get approval for some of these things. So Just be aware of that. I won't be here going forward after July 1st, of course, but grants are often not approved early. I think the last time it was kicked back to us probably 5 or 6 times at least. And that's not just Southwest Tech, it's all over the state. The folks they have up in the AOE, are very particular about not wanting to be audited by the federal government, and I understand that. And so they make sure that we don't get them audited. So that's what we have on the Perkins presentation. It does have to be presented to the board and in our minutes, which will be reflected, and that has to be uploaded into our application as well. So there's not really an acceptance, I guess, of the presentation. It's just acknowledgement that you've seen the data that we've shared. And I heard, I believe it was John who asked for all the questions and all the data to be provided to the board at some point, and that's absolutely fine. We'd be here till 10 o'clock tonight if we did that. We just wanted to give you a snapshot of the most important things that we thought to present today.
Thank you. Okay, one more action item. Asher emailed me and asked me if I would get this put on the agenda. He thought maybe more action would be taken. Monthly meeting changes. He's still interested in staying at the 4 o'clock. So go ahead, Asher.
Thank you, Ken, and I appreciate you putting it on the agenda. I realized after the last meeting that this should be an agenda item, not a motion. So I really appreciate it being on there. Look, my feelings on this have not changed. I feel like we need to have a degree of regularity with our meetings, especially in the interest of getting folks to join. I feel like we should have the regularity with meetings as to not confuse the public, as to ensure that as many meetings as possible are accessible. Now, pertinent to Becky's comments last time, I appreciate them. I would be curious to know how many Southwest Tech parents work night shift versus those who don't. I would be curious to see. I doubt such a statistic exists. That being said, I would like to see our board conform a little bit to what other local agencies do. I'm not familiar with any other local agency, be it school board or select board, that meets on an alternating schedule basis. Furthermore, I love the idea of once or twice a year having a special meeting where we get to see not one, but perhaps many different classrooms. That way we can see what is going on in the classroom. We can, perhaps interact a little bit more with the teachers and the students, especially if they know that it's like a school board day, maybe. Yeah, I cannot be conscious let this one go, as it were. I do feel that we need to be meeting at a consistent time, and that time should be later as to accommodate, at least from my perspective, I feel that most parents are going to be more likely to be able to show up if it's a 4 p.m. meeting. That being said, it would probably be a later time that would be more accessible, like 5 or 6. So perhaps we should have that conversation as well. And again, I think that encouraging student participation should be a thing. I don't think we can get that participation at 10 a.m. when they're supposed to be in class. For those students who, maybe would have difficulty transportation getting here, I think having the Zoom option is good. And regardless of what this board decides, I would like to see these meetings, when they're warned, have a week, a day in advance, have it on our social media platform. That way the public knows when we're meeting, whether it's what time or another. I think that would be appropriate, given how I think we should be encouraging the public to attend our meetings. The fact that the public hasn't been interacting with our board in some time, that's a fair point, although I would like to see that change, not only for our board, but for others. Thank you.
Did you want to make a motion?
I would like to move that, this school board, changed its schedule and meets monthly at 4 p.m. For the foreseeable future until such time that, we decide to change it again.
I have one question. How much a notice do we give public work meetings? Isn't it?
Just for discussion, I'll second. Go ahead.
Thank you, that's a good question, I wish I knew the answer to. I know that we get, emailed and warned,
I assumed it was a week, possible, I wasn't
It is,
sure.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Approximately a week, yes.
Just wanted to be sure.
It's posted in the library, in the town hall, and sent to the newspaper.
It goes
Select
to
board,
the
I think,
Manchester
also
Town
has-
Office, the Bennington Town Office, to our webpage, to, we post it physically here and on our bulletin board inside. So it's out and posted well beyond what even is required.
Absolutely, I would like to see that at some point be extended to social media as well as to reach more people.
We can easily accomplish that, Asher, for social media. That's an easy one. Also, the meeting dates are warned. You select them at the annual reorg meeting in March, and so those are listed as well throughout the year. And they stay pretty much the same, and we've only ever canceled or changed one or two. So that is out there as well.
I'd like to suggest Front Porch Forum is an excellent outlet for announcing meetings. That's, the town does that.
I agree.
I think a couple of things. So the motion that we're considering is about setting the dates, right? Right now we're talking about setting the times. Right now we're talking about notice.
Right,
So those
right.
are-
Sorry, I got jumped in after.
Thank you for asking the question.
And I don't know, I personally, maybe this is just from me coming from the legislature and things like that, but we have sort of like a point at which, if you consider a question and if you have debate on the question and you decide on the question, then you don't reconsider the same question again, right? So I think last meeting, we had this debate. Last two meetings, we've had this debate, and we've landed on a vote. And so I would just put that out there. I don't know if we have, bylaws that kind of bring up the same sort of process. But that's just kind of my, I think I would kind of encourage us to vote on this unless if we feel like it's valuable to be having this discussion every month, but.
I just want to hear from the administration, do you like having the alternate schedule to be in the classroom, or does it matter? But I agree with what David said. We set a schedule for this year of alternating. We would have to, and should just wait until our reorg to relook at that. That is the time that we decide the dates, the times that's voted upon. It's set on the website and things like that, but I agree with all you're saying, Asher. It used to be a 6 p.m. meeting, still no one would really come. Unfortunately, we're not as excited as back at the select board, but we are doing great work there too. So, we don't have that level of.
And the other thing too is we have 10 meetings a year because we have nothing in July and nothing in February. So there's 10, and if we rotate, that means there's 5 at 4 o'clock and 5 at, and 5 at the other. So it doesn't, I cannot believe you can't talk with your boss, whoever he or she may be, and you're doing a civic job, you're representing people, that they would dock you any pay at all for coming to this meeting. That really doesn't make, it's just not American to me. If your boss should say, go ahead for an hour and a half, we do it and we'll cover, and then once a month, 5 times a year. I mean, it's nothing.
I can appreciate your comments, Chair. I'm not bringing this up, as a matter of personal relevance. Thank you, though. I appreciate that.
There's a question, actually, administrators, like, what are your, Megan, I know you talked about this at length, thoughts?
I mean, I do feel similar to how Becky had talked during the last meeting. The advantage of this 10 o'clock meeting is, you know, the building is alive and programs are in action and you get to experience that. But more so, the students get to experience you too, you know what I mean? So I think it's important that students see our board members interested and engaged in what they're interested and engaged in. You know, that 10 o'clock slot allows that to happen. You know, as far as my own schedule, I'll come whenever. But there is that advantage of the 10 o'clock time.
You know, you could even ask, like, the law students and others, the business, to come and sit in on our 10 o'clock meetings. I mean, even if it's 10, 12, but just to see what goes on here, to experience a regular meeting, maybe that would get them interested after they graduate to run or be more productive.
Right.
And I guess from my perspective, it's there's going to be no perfect time for anybody, whether it's the board members, the community, the students. I mean, 10 o'clock's not a perfect time, quite frankly. It's our programs are ending at like 10:20. So there really is no perfect time. And I'm the one that asked for this meeting to be at 10, or we started this originally. And as what Meg had said, I really think that the students should see you as active participants in their education. I think they enjoy seeing it. They're often like, who are those people that were in here today? I said, oh, they're board members. Oh, okay. You know, they're interested as well, you know? So, and from a historical perspective, Mike, I know you've covered our meetings at Southwest Tech, formerly CDC, for at least a decade or more, as I can remember. And we have historically not had participation from the public, short of some complaints, which happen from time to time under public comments. So it's that's my 2 cents for what it's worth. I just think there's no perfect time for anybody, and if we can just come to a common time, I think we've set that for this calendar year, if you will, of five times being at 10 o'clock and 5 times being at 4 p.m. And I mean, today's meeting is running particularly long. As you know, most of our meetings are over 35 to 40 minutes. It's just, we had a long presentation to do today. And so normally we're not here this late as well. So that's what I have for my opinion on it.
Well, I remember when I first got on the board, when they used to have the meetings at 6 o'clock. I think my first 2 or 3 years on the board was 6 o'clock. And we never had anybody in 3 years come to those meetings.
Been a hell of a lot longer than that. So I've been probably the oldest one on the board right now. We used to go to Reedsboro, we used to go to Dorset, we used to go to Pownell, we used to go to all the schools. We might get a custodian. The people do not want to come to these meetings. That's why you people are all elected. They know you, they know what you're gonna do, and that's the thing. They have lives that they just don't want to waste their time. They're spending time with their kids. These 2 people don't need to be here till 7, 8 o'clock at night either. They have more important things to do than sit here and come to a meeting and we'll all bobble our heads and we make these decisions. They're here to run school, and they should be. And it's a big waste of time. If people have a problem with this board, trust me, they'll be here. The last one being was the teacher's contract. It was full, okay? That's the way it works. And if somebody's doing something that it'll get around, and I think we have plenty of coverage all over the place in this town. So I like the 10 o'clock meetings. I like interacting with the kids, and they should see the board members and find out what the hell's going on in here. and how they should, we're trying to teach them. So I would be against having, I know for now, we're doing the 4 o'clock, 10 o'clock, whatever it is, that's fine. But I think it should stay at around 6, maybe we go, I would go more than 6 o'clock. I mean, these people gotta get home and they got, like I said, more important things to do than worrying about being here all day. I mean, they're here all day dealing with all the other problems that arise, so it's just my 2 cents.
Call a vote. All in favor of changing the time permanently to 4 o'clock? Raise your hand.
Aye.
What's against?
I'm abstaining.
And a positive vote from Chuck.
Chuck had his hand up as well as Tim Kaine.
For which one?
Thank you. Okay, superintendent's report.
So I have about another hour and a half presentation for everybody. I'm kidding. I just want to update you on a few things. First off, Tuesday, mark your calendars, Tuesday, June 4th, will be our annual award ceremony. The time has not been determined yet. It will be either 5:30 or 6 o'clock. It'll be out at the Southern Vermont Arts Center where we were last year. So if you attended last year, you know where that is. Out on the west end by the Covered Bridge Museum. That's where we're going to be, Tuesday, June 4th. Also, I want to update the board and the public on some of our trips that are coming up for our students' CTSO competitions. June 24th to June 28th, we have Skills USA down in Atlanta. June 25th to June 30th, we have our Health Occupations, or HOSA, will be in Houston. June 28th to July 2nd, we have FBLA, which is Future Business Leaders of America. They will be in Orlando. There's a lot of traveling coming up, and these students who are traveling to these national competitions have won gold or silver here in Vermont. Depending on the organization structure, it depends on how they're eligible to go to nationals. But as you know, you always support these students every year going to nationals. We've won nationals before, with both gold, silver, and bronze, and I don't think this year will be any different. And so, yeah, that's all I really wanted to bring up. And so thank you for listening to our data presentation, which is long, I know, but important. It's important. So that's what I have. I didn't want to take any more of your time because I knew we'd be busy on the CLNA thing tonight. So is there any questions that I can answer for the board?
Good luck to all the students.
Thank you. And I look forward to seeing you all in person the week of June 4th, or actually June 3rd. And a reminder that our board meeting is June 3rd. It was moved up last month, just as a reminder.
You answer, I have a question. I've got the RGB educational facilities, and it says here, agenda, transportation needs a bus. I thought we just bought a bus last year.
Yeah, we did, but we're in need of another one, if not 2 or 3, quite frankly. We have a lot of vehicles, and that's why we put it on the discussion for the education and facilities. It'll have to go to finance at some point as well. I mean, we have, just trying to count quickly off the top of my head, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least six buses. Of all different ages and of different styles and what they can be used for and what they can't be used for. And our vehicles are on the road. Anyone can attest to this, from morning till night. They really are running rampant. So we are in need of another bus. The last diesel that we have out there that's been sitting, I call it Old Smoky, with the letters on it. It's done. It can't be on the road anymore. Like, it's done. Needs to be gone. So there are some needs that we're going to talk about. I know if Mr. Haskins has his way, we'd be buying like 3 new buses, but that's not going to happen probably. So we'll start with 1.
Is there money in that program where people vote for the extra money on election day? Remember, we set aside 40,000 or whatever. Was there enough money?
Yep, Rebecca could speak to that. We, our reserve accounts, not to throw on the spot, but that's where the money would likely come from.
We should probably do that in the next meeting.
That's all. Just remember, June 3rd, 10 o'clock in the morning, our next meeting, Monday. You'll get back to us about the awards meeting, the time and.
Yeah, yes, you'll all get an invite, either an evite or a card in the mail as well, with the exact date and time and location.
Thank you.
And,
Anything,
Oh, so I was gonna say, sorry, for a point of clarification, there is a education committee meeting. It was scheduled for 4:45. We're running behind because of the board meeting, so I don't know if TJ was the chair. I'm not sure if you want to reschedule it or keep it going. That's up to folks here.
We'll take a vote on that after we conclude this meeting.
Sounds like a plan.
Can we have a motion then to adjourn?
Actually, that, the letter for Wendy, has that made its way around to all board members? It did? Okay, thank you. And thank you for doing that. I think it would mean, I just met her today. She's the one who let me in here. Tight security around here. Anyway, thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Right on.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.